Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of My Secret Atheist podcast. This week we're going to continue with more material from the interview I did with Armin Navabi from Atheist Republic. Armin's also the author of the book Why There Is No God, Simple Responses to 20 Common Arguments for the Existence of God, which you can go grab at Amazon. For this week's episode, we will be discussing Atheist Republic and also the precarious situation of a young Saudi atheist who has managed to escape from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but is now desperately trying to seek refuge in a country where she won't be in danger. So without further ado, here is more of the interview with Armin Navabi. I remember reading recently about a woman who was in Saudi Arabia who actually sent a picture to Atheist Republic at Mecca, at the Hajj, around basically in the Hajj itself, where during the pilgrimage, the piece of paper, it said Atheist Republic on it. That was amazing, but I have read that she's now left Saudi Arabia, and she is one of these people who needs support.
Yeah, the timing was horrible because she ran away from Saudi Arabia. We managed to get her a lot of support because of the pictures that she sent us from inside, the Kaaba area. But I don't know if it was during the Hajj season because you could actually go there even if it's not Hajj time.
There weren't a lot of people there, so it probably wasn't, right? But it was right there. You saw the big. I always forget the name of the Kaaba. Yeah, the Kaaba. So that's, for people listening, that's the large black cube, I guess, that contains the holy stone.
Yeah, well, the holy stone is is at the side of it. It's not inside of it, but yeah, it's the holiest, the most sacred part. It's the heart of Islam. It's basically the place where everybody turns to when they pray. And one important thing is that no non-Muslim can even be near there, right? You can't. Is forbidden to even be in the city area, let alone inside the Hajj area.
I've actually seen signs. I've actually seen road signs around Mecca where they have a lane specifically for Muslims.
Yeah, so you don't go into the Kaaba area. But now when Muslims see a picture, this is so a girl is holding a paper that says Atheist Republic, and she's right next to Kaaba. This is a girl that is basically there for an atheist, right? And this is, for them, this was so offensive because, and it's interesting, and a lot of people that were not Muslim and didn't know this were watching the reaction of Muslims to this picture, and they were like, how could this be offensive? It's just holding a piece of paper, right? It doesn't even have a message that says anything about Islam or anything negative. It just says Atheist Republic, and everybody, a lot of Muslims were losing it. They were like, they were even calling it racist. I'm like, racist? This is an Arab girl that is holding a piece of paper that is, how is this even racist? Like, it was so ridiculous. But also, it was a very interesting way to show people about how easy it is for a lot of these people, Muslims, to get offended. Because a lot of atheists, they tell us that why do you have to go out of your way to offend Muslims? But then when you show them how easy it is for you to offend them, then you can see that if you really want to tiptoe around them not being offended, then you have to actually, it's not just about not drawing Muhammad. You have to forego so much more if you really want to not offend many Muslims around the world. But the thing is that she eventually managed to run away from Saudi Arabia. And the only way she managed to do that was because she's a Syrian citizen. She's not a Saudi Arabian citizen, right? If she was a Saudi Arabian citizen, she would not have the permission to leave without consent from her brother and father. I don't know if I remember correctly, but she got a letter from somebody, a male that she managed to eventually get a ticket and leave to another country in the Middle East. The problem is that because she's a Syrian citizen, her now trying to leave the Middle East happened exactly the same time as all this refugee crisis. And anybody with a Syrian passport is really out of luck with trying to get any legal method of getting out of the Middle East. So we really tried to figure out how to get her out, and we failed. But what we were successful at is we managed to raise money for her and try to provide, at least a little bit, try to provide for her financially while she was trying to figure things out. But at the end, we tried to get letters. We tried to get her passport was expiring, and we didn't know. We talked to so many people, and we talked to the people from ex-Muslims of North America and the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain. They were very, very helpful. We even have my friend Imtiaz. He went to Turkey and he met with her directly. But eventually she realized that the only way to get out is through smugglers. And she's now going to try that, I think, in the next week or two. And I'm really scared because this is a very, very risky method. But, I tried to talk her out of that, but honestly, she has her mindset and she's going to take that, take that option. So if anybody is listening to this and they have any other option, we tried student visa, work visa. A lot of people are when we ask for advice, a lot of people talk about getting amnesty, refugee status, but that's actually comes after when you leave the country. That's asking for refugee status, asking for amnesty. That comes when you actually manage to eventually get into a Western country. The initial problem is to get that visa. And one thing we tried to do is to get her work visa or to get letters from conference letters for her to be able to use it to apply for visa. One main issue was her passport was expiring soon, so a lot of some countries would reject her. And, even Norway rejected her visa application, which was very sad. But since we couldn't find any other way, the only way now is for her to use one of these smugglers to be able to go to, I don't know which, I'm not going to say which country because she has people looking for her right now. So I'd rather not say the route that she's taking. But again, if you have any experience with this or if you know what to do, even people that do know what to do, I talk to them, and the options that they are offering were, they themselves said the chances of success with those were very low, and they had people waiting for those even to work for years. And she doesn't have years because she has people actively right now looking for her, and those people know which country she is in. So she's at great risk, and she needs to get out of there as fast as possible.
Who are the people looking for? I mean, are these her relatives?
Yeah, her brother promised to kill her when she finds her. The thing is that if her family is looking for her, there's no way that they could. If they're bringing her back to Saudi Arabia, they're bringing her back to a death sentence, right? Because she can't go back to Saudi Arabia. She can't go to Syria either. So, she needs to. If they find her, then she has no control over what happens to her anymore. the only option for her is to just get out of the Middle East as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, Syria, she's actually one of many thousands of Syrians trying to go, in millions, right, in the same direction as she's trying to go, likely. I mean, out. Um, yeah, I was actually thinking of the conference route, but I mean, the problem there is that getting a visa, I mean, if your I'm guessing if your conference is in any of these countries that will reject her passport, then that's just not going to happen, right? That it kind of limits her target countries.
Yes. Also, because her passport is expiring soon, she can't apply for U.S. anymore. She can't apply for Canada anymore. She can't apply for UK anymore. Only some, if you can, European countries were left for her. Norway rejected her, and every time she gives her passport away for a visa application, that means she has to wait, and that's the time that she doesn't have a passport in her hand. So that's also very risky. Um, so yeah, it's a very horrible situation. But I mean, even if she takes the smuggler route, if anybody has an advice with regards to that, that would be also helpful because I have no idea.
They can definitely get in touch with you because you have contact with her. How old is she,
I'm not.
roughly?
I don't know if she allows me to say that.
Oh, I see.
She's
Okay.
young, but so she's not. She doesn't have.
She's on the young side then. Okay.
Yes, and that's a problem because she gets approached. She's alone and by herself, right? And she gets approached a lot. She got harassed on the bus that she took. She got harassed a couple of times in the street.
Oh,
And
right.
it's really, I mean, if you are a young girl by yourself in the Middle East, you are really risking everything. Like there's nobody around you to protect you. And now I don't know. And if she gets into these refugee camps, I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I would be scared by myself. I can't imagine. If if anybody listening, if you have a daughter, just imagine just her by herself with nobody to protect her in a refugee camp with people that from all around the Middle East that you have no idea who these people are. It's just, and these are millions of people. And when you're traveling with these refugees, is so it makes you feel so insignificant because you're saying that you're just part of just millions of people walking in the same direction. And even when the media starts focusing on them, it's just focusing on the millions of people. You feel like nobody really gives a shit about you as an individual anymore, and it feels so alone and so isolating. It's just a horrible, and a lot of these refugees feel like that. Sometimes even with the media coverage, you think like they're getting the coverage that they, if you are one of those people that the camera was turned on you, you're one of the small fraction of all the other people that nobody will ever know their name. A lot of these people, if they die in the way, they're forgotten forever, and no, it's crazy. It's the numbers when you look at it is nothing that we have seen like this since World War II is crazy. And a lot of people say that these people, a lot of most of them are Muslims, so if we welcome them, we're just going to destroy um, our Western civilization and stuff like that. But I would argue it's actually the other way around. Not welcoming them is a very powerful tool to play in the hands of people that want to recruit these people, and also to show, I think the fact that a lot of European countries welcome them more than some Muslim countries was something that a lot of Muslims took notice. It's not something that went ignored in their on their social media circles. They were actually pointing it out to each other that how hypocritical their Muslim countries are, that it's the European countries that are welcoming them. These kind of narratives actually helps fight extremism. We live. This is not the battlefield that we're fighting in is not against people. It's against ideas, right? And you can't fight ideas by creating walls that don't let people in, because even if you don't let people in, ideas do make it through those walls, right? And the only way to fight ideas is with ideas. And one idea is that to show that your way of life is superior. And you can show that your way of life is superior by being kind to people, by being welcoming to people, and that's how you show that your way of life is superior, not by building walls. And the one good thing about not having religion is that we don't discriminate against people, because it helps us, at least I hope, that not discriminate against people for their ideas, right? If we want to discriminate against people because of their bad ideas, then going from religion to atheism doesn't really give us any advantage. We're just playing the same game of discriminating against people. I mean, again, I want to always make sure that people understand that what we're fighting is Islam. We're not fighting Muslims, right? What we are fighting against is Christianity, not Christians. We're fighting dogma, not people.
Yeah, and I think that this gets lost. I think that some people either don't see it, and other people, I think, deliberately muddle it. I think that some people actually may be thoroughly confused, and they see both of those things as being the same. I mean, I guess as if, the Muslim, what am I looking for? If the Arab Spring, if it increases, or if it continues, or if it returns, if you have more and more people in these countries identifying or self-identifying as being non-religious, then what you're going to do is you're going to see an erosion of the tie between religion and cultural identity there. So you're going to, you can say, well, I'm a Saudi or I'm an Egyptian, but I'm not religious. The two don't come hand in hand.
Yes, exactly. And actually that's already very true. Atheist activism is growing in Egypt. Atheist activism is growing in Syria. Atheist activism, already existed for many years and is growing in these countries. In Iran, even in Saudi Arabia, believe it or not, there's atheist activism going on. In Pakistan, growing significantly. A lot of people can, have a hard time believing this, but it's very true, and it's been there it's just been driven underground. It doesn't mean it's not there. The way some people to show what's the difference between religion and the religious is the example people use is cancer and the cancer victim. Religion is like the disease, and the religious person is the main victim of the disease. The religious person is the patient, is the cancer patient. We're fighting cancer. We're not fighting the cancer patient. That's the way that a lot of people try to describe it. And a lot of radicals and extremists would actually prefer it if you isolate these people, or if you reject these people, because you're playing in their hand, right? That's what they want you to do. It makes it easier for them to reach out to them. The battle that we're fighting is is basically the battle for hearts and minds, right? You don't win that battle by rejecting people. One thing that Canada does, and even United States is doing better than Europe, is by trying to, when Muslims come to to these countries, they feel that they belong here. They feel like this is now their country. Muslim Canadians feel much more that Canada is their country than Muslims in the UK, right? Muslim Canadians go to the same school as other Canadians. They they shop at the same places as other Canadians. They eat at the same place as other Canadians. But that's not true, in many places in Europe. They're completely segregated. And I would guess that in Canada, it's much easier for the second and third generation of Muslims in Canada, for example, to consider alternative viewpoints, right? To consider secularism, atheism, or even if they don't consider that, to be more open-minded about accepting atheists as their fellow human beings. But that's much more difficult for a Muslim that is born in London. In a lot of areas, for them is much easier to uh, see the exact opposite view of the Muslims that are born in Canada.
Actually, that plays into some things that I've been blogging about on the blog. In particular, a city like London, where you actually have these cloistered communities. You'll have cloistered Orthodox Jewish communities where you walk down the street and they have signs up saying that women need to cover up in order to walk by, for instance. Or for instance, you can also have in London. If you look at the news, it seems like they have a sort of cells of very extreme imams and British clerics there, Muslim clerics, who can say some pretty vicious things, actually. And a lot of them, and some of them, they didn't even come from other countries. They grew up in the UK.
Yes, yeah, and when you reject them, that basically become fuel for the extremist viewpoint. We have many. Canada is an immigrant country, so why don't we accept, as a per capita basis, we accept much more immigrants from Muslim countries than many other countries. So why don't we have the same problem, right? I mean, I'm not going to suggest that this is the only reason, because usually these things are much more complicated and the factors are there are so many external factors that people need to take it into account. But I'm saying this is something that is worth being examined.
And actually, even here in Montreal, where I am, I've run into some Muslims, actually some friends of my wife as well, and one of them, I was speaking to him, and he said, "Oh yeah, he does Eid, he does some of these other things, but he also does Christmas too." And I said, "Wow, that's kind of interesting. You do these Christmas and you also do Eid and the whole deal." And he said, "Yes, actually, I do all these things because for me, Eid is, just like Christmas. Like we don't do as many." We're not, they don't follow it to the letter, but it's just a celebration for the kids. Basically, he's culturally Muslim, but he doesn't, they don't actually buy into a lot of the dogma, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, most Muslims haven't even thought about these things. It's just basically most Christians, right? Most of them never read the Quran. They didn't take a theology class. They don't even know what. I have to ask Muslims, what are the 5 pillars of Islam, and they couldn't name me the 5 pillars of Islam, right? I mean, a lot of people, when they say these are not really Muslim, I don't know how you define a Muslim, but if they call themselves Muslims, then they're Muslims, right? A lot of liberals say ISIS is not really Muslim, and they're like, no, they're fucking Muslim. If they're saying they're Muslim, right? But also a lot of Muslims, they say, well, if a Muslim supports gay rights, then they're not really Muslim. No, you could still be. You could be a Muslim that doesn't follow Islam to the letter, just like you have Christians that are Christians but do not follow the Bible to the letter. They are not very good at following Christianity. You could have a lot of Muslims that are not very good at following Islam. If somebody, I'm from Iran, right? So I knew a lot of people in my social circle. They consider themselves Muslim. They drank alcohol. They had sex before marriage. They didn't pray. They didn't fast during Ramadan, and they still call themselves Muslim. What is your religion? Islam. So if we want to be technical about it, I would say anybody that believes in the 7 articles of faith in Islam, then they are technically a Muslim. You could, if they are not following the Islamic doctrine, then they are not a good Muslim, right? They're a Muslim that are not very good at following Islam, but they're still technically a Muslim, as long, by definition, as long as they believe that, Muhammad, there is a God and there is a day of judgment, and the Quran is the direct word of God, and Muhammad is the last prophet. But as long as you believe these set of ideas, you are technically a Muslim, whether you are a ISIS member or you are a gay rights activist Muslim. Both of you are Muslim.
So, Armin, you're currently in charge of Atheist Republic.
I started it, but we don't have anybody in charge, right? That's why we call it the Republic, right? So everybody is in charge of their own. When people join the Atheist Republic team, they could either just do what they like to do, or they could start projects and be there in charge of their own mini projects, right? So we have like a translating team. We're going to have a new podcast team. We have the blogging team. We have the news team. We have the design team. And anybody that is interested in leadership positions, they could step up and like take the lead. So I'm actually less and less in charge of different things. I'm trying to myself to become, take the follower position rather than the leader position, and focus mostly on the social media side of things, and also a little bit of more the writing side of things. But we have many leaders within the Atheist Republic team. I started it about 4 years ago, but it's much more than what I ever imagined it to be, and a lot more people than me are involved in it. So my role with it is becoming smaller and smaller every year.
So your membership is around a million people, and you have the website, and as you mentioned there, you have the podcast as well that you're about to be working on. And it almost sounds more like a sort of a collective for.
Yeah, we have many services and resources and communities. We have a news section, a design, meme section. We have a blog section. We have a support group for people that need emotional support for other atheists to talk to and share their, they fill out the form if they feel depressed or they feel isolated by their community for their atheism and they just need somebody to talk to. We provide that service for free. We have a lot of resources for atheist parents, for atheist teenagers that need advice. We have our own website online forum that has become very active. We have a lot of discussions and communities on social media, but now our own website forum because a lot of people don't want their name to be out there, especially a lot of atheists in Muslim countries. But Facebook is making it harder and harder for people to hide their name. It's demanding that people use their real name. So as soon as some ex-Muslims say something offensive, all the Muslims have to do is just report them as a fake account, which usually is a fake account, and then all of a sudden they lose all their connections and all their accounts. So we're trying to provide environments on our own website where people could have discussions and debates without actually revealing who they are, and that community on our website is growing fast. Another thing we're doing, even though our own Facebook page and website was growing, and we had a lot of private communities, and those were growing as well. One thing we noticed is that a lot of people were demanding communities specifically for their own location because they were interested in meeting atheists around each other. So one thing we started doing was create atheist communities for each city. So we call it the Atheist Republic consulates. And those some cities are growing faster than the other ones. So the funny thing is that the more religious the country is, the faster these consulates are growing because there's more demand for people have a hard time finding each other in more religious countries. And yeah, you mentioned the podcast. The podcast is coming. It's going to be a little bit different from other podcasts. It's not going to be a show like where I come and speak about things. What we do is we collect voicemails. So when people go to the Atheist Republic website, they can see these green buttons, that says start recording, and people could leave their voicemail. And all the podcast is going to be the Atheist Republic voicemails. and it's just going to be voicemails from atheists around the world, which we're going to broadcast on our podcast. And that goes back to the fact that we try to be a republic rather than have the voice of a few people that are in charge of Atheist Republic. It's not about that. It's about just taking the voice of our community and making it louder. We just want to remove the barriers for people, for atheists to be able to express themselves. That's the whole philosophy behind Atheist Republic. It's supposed to be make it easy for atheists to publish books. Oh, one thing else we're doing is we started the Atheist Republic publishing arm, which makes it for we publish books for atheist authors. We make it easier for authors to be able to publish their books under Atheist Republic, and we market it for them. So basically, everything we do is with that philosophy. We think that atheists around the world have a hard time giving voice to their opinions. Sometimes they're silenced, sometimes they're ignored, sometimes they're ostracized. We try to remove that barrier, whether if they want to do it by designing, whether if they want to do it by blogging or writing a book or leaving a voicemail. We want to make it easy for any atheist in any country, whether Indonesia, Philippines, Egypt, United States, Iran. If they have something to say to all the many other atheists around the world, we make it easy for them to do so.
So, about how long ago did you start up the website?
It's been about 4 years now, so we grew much faster than we anticipated. We right now our Facebook page has about 1,200,000 followers. Our website gets between an average of last time I checked, I think it was about 10,000 unique visitors a day. So it's been really good. Our website forum is one of the most active non-social media forums for atheists online. Our newsletters subscribers are growing very fast, and it's a lot more interactive than a lot of other newsletters. We don't just send out newsletters; we actually interact with people when we send out our newsletters, and we ask them. The emails are a two-way interaction rather than just sending out content. So it's been fun. It's been interesting, and I think we so far at least 9 people have gotten married that we know of within the Atheist Republic community. So we at least so we started 9 families at least. But it's been great. It's been very interesting. I think a lot of people that even to this day, when they find Atheist Republic from very religious countries, they're shocked about when they see how many atheists are out there, and they feel a lot better about the fact that there's more of us out there. One thing that I think that the gay rights movement in the West that has done very well is that just in the 1960s or 1970s, when you realize that you're gay, you might have felt that there's something wrong with you, that there's not that many of you, that that this is something that you should hide, this is something that's shameful, something that you can't openly talk to people about it. And then what the gay rights movements did is that by encouraging more people to come out and be open about it, a lot of other gay people start noticing that there's more of them that they used to think there, and then they get encouraged, they get shocked and sometimes encouraged to see somebody is openly saying to other people that they're gay, and they're not apologizing for it, and they're not ashamed of it. And then they all of a sudden saw high profile celebrities all of a sudden being open about gay, and eventually that normalizes. So one thing we try to encourage for atheists around the world, that if it's safe for them, being open about your atheism is not just about you. When you're open about your atheism, you're actually showing other atheists that this is not something that they need to hide or be ashamed of. And also one thing that the gay rights movement did is when more people came out as gay, some people that used to be against homophobic started noticing people that they admired, people that they sometimes even loved. All of a sudden they realized that they're gay. Sometimes it was even their brothers or their daughters or their fathers even. And then some of them had to reconsider their views about in gay people. So one thing that helps with atheists coming out is that a lot of people around you that maybe like you or admire you, all of a sudden when they realize that you're an atheist, that might change their view about other atheists as well. That might change. It helps it become less demonized. A lot of times people think that atheist activism is about trying to encourage people to give up religion. Well, that's a secondary, objective that I think a lot of atheist groups might have. But I think the first priority is to create a community for people that are already atheists and to provide support and community to people that are already atheists wherever they are. And also, even when it comes to the secondary goal, when it comes to reaching out to people that are not atheists, is not necessarily to change their mind about God. Is more the first objective should be to change their mind about atheists. I think that if when we debate a religious person or talk to religious people, even if we don't manage to change their view about God, if they come out of a debate thinking, at the beginning of a debate, they might have believed that atheists are all, it's just ridiculous to be an atheist, or they're all evil. They might come out of a debate thinking that, atheists are still wrong and it's ridiculous for anybody not to believe in God. But I could see why some people might be atheists, or I could see that, being an atheist doesn't necessarily mean that you're a bad person. I think if you could go even that far, that's progress and that's a win.
I came from the coldest star, floating through the frozen dust, debris of ancient entropy, endless solo trajectory, endless solo trajectory. Dust envelops me, curl up in the dark safety. Am I asleep or wide awake? Both are pretty much the same. Both are pretty much the same. Floating through the endless void, glimpses gleam of countless worlds. Never long it would be wrong to stay where I do not belong, drifting unseen past forgotten thoughts, too small to attract their wrath as they consume themselves in thought. Icy hopes and freeze-dried dreams. I come from the coldest star, drifting silent.